platforms. You're logged on to Will FM 98.9 for another episode of Voices. It's a fantastic Friday in the Federation of the Singers and Nevis, and of course across the Eastern Caribbean. We're here in the double slice of paradise, Singers and Nevis, and my name is Socrates, host of today's program. If I seem to be flying blind, it's because I just run into some very nice people. I was sent an update as what today's program would be. I didn't get it. I missed it. So we're going to pause for a word from the sponsors first, and when we get back, ask our guests to introduce their lovely selves. Can we do that?
Buying your medication is easy with City Drug Store's curbside pickup. WhatsApp our certified pharmacist at 662-8769 with your requests. For prescriptions, take a clear photograph and send for review. We will engage you in dialogue and then provide a quotation and link for payment. You can then pay via TDC's online payment portal. And once the transaction is complete, you'll be notified that your pickup is ready. Yes, it's that easy. Send your WhatsApp message to 662-8769 to order your medications today with City Drug Store's curbside pickup service.
Flow! Jingle all the way home to Flow, where the speed is faster and price is better. All the way home to Flow. Merry connections that bring us together. Yeah.
Christmas starts the moment you go postpaid with Flow. Because when you do, you get a free smartphone. Plus, you get 20 gigabytes of data, unlimited WhatsApp and YouTube, and 4,000 local minutes. That's our Christmas jingling your way to keep family close anywhere, every day.
All the way home to Flow.
Visit discoverflow.co for more information.
Once again, good morning, and we are live on Voices. My name is Socrates, and with me in the studio today are some, as described, high panel personalities, of whom I'm going to ask to introduce themselves before we get into the substance of the debate. So, shall we go ladies first? Or are we gender neutral? How is it?
Gender neutral.
Okay, well, you answer as a female first, right? So you go ladies first. See how to take advantage?
We always give support. That's okay.
Oh, you support?
Yes.
Okay. Who wants to go first?
Okay, so my name is Chanel Charles, and I'm from the St. Kitts Nevis Women's Council. We started in 2019 after a collaboration with the NGOs to observe 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, and we found it fit to form a women's council based on the murders, physical abuse, and everything that comes under gender-based violence, to form a women's group and to see how best we could help women in our communities in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis with legal advice, or whether it's just a support system, and many other support in that realm. For today, 16 days of activism started for us, on the 25th of November, and would end Saturday on Human Rights Day. So today we bring to the fore, as usual, the topic that never goes away, and the domestic violence and the crimes that are, among our communities and how it's really affecting us. And we don't want that to be our one-off or our only talk, but we continue to collaborate with other NGOs, and happy to have the Men's Council with us today. They would introduce themselves, and I think we are off to a great start.
I think so too. You have said a month for the loss of load, so I'm going to go across the border to the middle and then come back to how we're going to do it.
Okay.
They're not sure.
I'm Philip Mills, the president of the Men's Council, and today we want to talk on some topics that are very dear to both male and females. We in the council we've been operating about 6 years, and we do know of the many difficulties and concerns that men have. We try to, in our way, reach out to some of the men that are really in need of any kind of assistance, both socially, in some respect, find out what their financial difficulties might be, and try to steer them in the right direction, probably through legal means or any other social activities that may be available to them. And today we'll go into that and see how we can gender-base both male and female, and again, try to encourage men to be strong men. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Igad. See, I know somebody's name?
But that's almost like you. I'm also with the Men's Council, Melvin Agad, Ras Agad, as some might know, Gruda, as some might know as well. I'll just be here in support of the reasoning.
Okay, Lady Byron.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Taliba Byron. I'm an attorney, and I've been pleased to be working along with the St. Kitts Nevis Women's Council. As Chanel said, it was formed in 2019. I've been the legal officer on the council since that time, and working together, as we said, with several different NGOs in St. Kitts and in Nevis who are committed to the empowerment of women and the elimination of all forms of discrimination against women and girls.
I think you were aptly introduced, representing your respective organizations. And I know like-minded people normally get together to address challenges. So your respective groups need to come together to collaborate on this social issue.
We have.
Yes. How did it come about, and what are some of the programs you've overseen so far? What you say it's a 16-day program?
Yeah, 16 days.
Okay, see, I'm still 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. Where you shut? Where you guys represented?
They didn't give us any, but that's fine.
So who wants to go first to speak about what's happening now, because you're here to highlight the program and what you are,
Okay. When the Women's Council started, I must say after a few months we met with the Men's Council, and we spoke about, ways how we can collaborate. We spoke about the law, the Domestic Violence Act that was in place, that was amended a few months or a month ago. So we can say that was successful. I don't know what the views are from the Men's Council, but for us here, it was enough for now.
Enough?
It would take a while for, all these things to come into play. Everything have to go to the parliament and gazetted and all of that process. But during that time, we have pulled off many activities. Recently, we did a symposium in St. Peter's, a domestic violence symposium, which was geared towards the community, persons within the community. We had Miss Byron there who did the presentation. You could have asked any questions, any legal advice of any sort, and yes, we had definitely the support of the Men's Council being present, and that was just one, and that was very informative, and it enlightened us to know what the law is, what we are supposed to know when we are supposed to assist victims of domestic violence. We've been on the radio talking about domestic violence. Before 16 Day, we were on Freedom Radio talking about the release of Bertil Fox, and the process and, how it came about and, talking about their families and how, we should be more sensitive when it comes to people's family when all this is taking place. It's too much to mention because a lot of activities, but I'll leave it there for now.
Mr. Mills?
Well, men in general are very reserved in some respects. They tend to hide some of their problems that they have. And one of the things that we try to do in the Men's Council is to reach out to the men and see if they can open up some more to some of the problems that they internalize. In that respect, we try to see if we can, once we reach them, sometimes we have to go through the women to get to the men.
Okay.
And they sometimes we, I see, coordinating with the with the other side, the female side, we can reach out to the men because we've had seminars basically involved in men issues, and the turnouts usually are very poor. So there's always an uphill battle in trying to tackle the problems because if they're not brought to the fore, then it's very difficult to reach down into them and really solve their problems. So one of the things that we keep trying to do is just reach out in many different aspects. Like I said, one of the things is to just talk to them. We have members who associate with other groups that really try to help the men in some respects. For instance, I'm the co-chair in the mentorship program, and even though that deals with boys, still it's only stage where you find the men, where you find the boys will eventually go up to men if you can teach them some of the things that they need to do, how they need to be respectful of women, of themselves, and become better men in general.
There's a bit of social conditioning that people are hard to digress from because it's sort of expected of you to conduct yourself in a certain manner. You identify with that pattern of behavior based on what's expected of you socially. You, Mr. Gaya, you want to weigh in on that?
Well, let's go back to the whole concept of law.
Of the law.
Yeah. Now,
Enforcement.
right. Now, the greater law that we know, because according to when you take up the Constitution and you go through it, it said at the head that it's basically the highest law of the land. But yet, when you go to the court and you swear in on anything, you have to swear by what?
The Bible?
The Bible. So that seemed to show that the Bible is the higher law.
Supersedes.
Now, in that text, it's telling you that as far as a commandment is that we should teach the children that text daily. We should write it upon the pots, upon the walls, and basically you should wear the concept of the laws with you at every time. When you lay down, when you rise up, when you're walking by the way. And for those who might be a little bit interested in that, is you could find that text in Deuteronomy 6. So it's telling you that these are the things that we should do. Now, why I start that way? Because this is supposed to be our bigger constitution. This is supposed to be the guide for us, especially us here in the Caribbean who are Christian-minded people, but yet we stray away from that and then we start to do our own thing and so on, and we get influenced by outer wall issues and different things and so on. We'd never stick to it. Now, again, with that, you find the fact that we are talking about violence, domestic violence issues and stuff like that. There is not one page within that text that seemed to suggest at any point that there was an issue of domestic violence back in those days. Matter of fact, while the men had their role to play and the women had their role to play, there was no confusion about the role.
Weren't there from the Old Testament definite roles given
Exactly.
to genders?
Right.
Women had to be subservient, the man was the head of the household, so they followed the old pattern?
Well, I wouldn't.
You had defined roles.
Yeah, but
And back in biblical time, they were mainly
now you
more
mentioned
enforced.
subservient. The thing is, I was talking about the fact that women run the house. without the man intervening or going contrary or anything like that. I could give you many examples, but I'll just give you one. We had a situation there with Samuel's mother. She couldn't get no children. Then, through she reasoning with father, she ended up get a son. And she told the father that she will not be going up to the temple until she finish weaning the child and what's not. And
Okay.
not only that, she's going to take the child and put him to live with the priest. The father had no say in the matter. The woman just did what she had to do. And you had many more examples like that where women took the lead and do what they had to do. And there was no point that the men ever disagreed or went contrary to what the woman decided she's going to do. So I'm saying that the issue of domestic violence, you don't see any of that within the text, that there was issues. And even you go back to not only the biblical text, but even the Egyptian text and the Sumerian text and all the Asian texts, basically, you don't see any form of domestic violence against women, because women was regarded as the mother of the earth.
Okay.
And in some other areas, you find that the worship of women was becoming a thing. So, so women were heavily respected. So I'm saying all this to say, if men took up the role the way they used to, or the way it's supposed to be, we'll have no issue called domestic violence.
Okay. I'm going to ask you this question, and while you mull over it, I'm going to go to Mr. Byron. Where did you find it first manifested? This, as we call it, domestic violence. Mull that over while we go to Ms. Byron. He's going to mull over the question.
Yeah.
While we're going to pivot to you and get your input.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Thanks, King Socrates, for that.
Much welcome.
Yes. I was going to say before Mr. Agard's very insightful intervention there, very interesting intervention there, that we have become normalized in certain aspects to think that some forms of violence are expected in relationships. Some forms of violence are sort of par for the course. You find a lot of victims feeling that, or not even realizing that they're being abused until someone explains to them what abuse really is, and the fact that you are going through something that is illegal and unlawful. There are different forms of domestic violence. Physical is the one that most people are aware of, but there is psychological, verbal, emotional abuse, which often goes in tandem with the physical as well. There is the economic abuse. We need some more awareness and education on that. That is quite pervasive in St. Kitts and Nevis. There are different forms. So harassment is also defined in our law as a form of domestic violence. Stalking is defined in our law as a form of domestic violence, as well as intimidation is considered a form of domestic violence. Cyber harassment, all of those things in a domestic context. So obviously you must have some relationship with the person. If someone is stalking you who you don't know and you've never met them, but
I've had prior history with.
Exactly. That's not domestic violence. That's another form of a crime. So, but in a domestic context, so if you have had some relationship with them, intimate, you've lived with them before, or you currently live with them, or you're married, or you were once married, or you have a child together. Maybe you never were married or lived together, but you have a child together. You can be a victim of domestic violence under our laws. So what I was saying is that the thing is that we have to do some more education. We're trying our best, but we have to continue to educate and to raise awareness about the fact that abuse is not normal and that love should not hurt, and no one deserves to be hurt by the person that they love.
We're going to pause on that note and go downtown and give Caesar his dues.
Okay.
And we will be right back, okay?
Choose your way to instant savings on Friday 9th and Saturday 10th December at the TDC Home and Building Depot. We're giving our customers the chance to pick your discount for not just 1, but 2 days with up to 40% discount in stores. This weekend, go where the best savings are. Choose your discount. Shop at everyone's favorite retail stores, the TDC Home and Building Depots. Terms and conditions apply. See stores for details.
Jingle all the way home to Flow, where the speed is faster and price is better. All the way home to Flow. Merry connections that bring us together. Yeah.
Christmas starts the moment you go postpaid with Flow. Because when you do, you get a free smartphone. Plus, you get 20 gigabytes of data, unlimited WhatsApp and YouTube, and 4,000 local minutes. That's our Christmas jingling your way to keep family close anywhere, every day.
All the way home to Flow.
Visit discoverflow.co for more information.
Buster! We run things, things are on we. Buster! Buster! Living color, do it differently. Buster! Buster! Large and in charge, like for the party. Buster! Buster! We set the pace, then everybody follow it.
7 flavors, best taste, Buster, bolder, better, better. Pick your color.
We set the pace, then everybody follow it.
Buster, live in full color.
Buster!
Once again, good morning, welcome back to our program. You're logged on to WinFM 98.9. You're listening to Voices. My name is Socrates, host of this program, and we have 2 very dynamic groups within the house today. And I'm hearing there's going to be a march downtown today put on by the appointment of the ladies. I thought it was men marching.
Men is marching, but well, I'm talking well, I'm just promoting for the Department of Gender Affairs about it's a protest for males. Just to say that, men are victims of domestic violence and they have a voice as well. And they want them to know that it's okay that you can come to the Department of Gender Affairs with your complaints, your concerns. It's not just our women's affairs, but it's gender affairs.
Has this been done before?
No, not for men.
What's the anticipated turnout?
We'll see.
Mr. Mills, what do you think? Expect a good turnout?
Expect that, but again, usually the men are so... They have 2 sides, basically. You see them in the bus terminals, and they gather in, they're playing dominoes.
The whole match
and
thing.
Boom, 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 yes. But once they leave that setting, they pull back in their shells. And it's very hard because once you're in that group, everybody, even if I'm talking about domestic violence with my wife, everybody going, yeah, or she's just, they kind of agree and they form that bond. But when they leave...
Individually, they don't.
They don't. And that's where the problem becomes for us when trying to reach them individually. And because they really, unless you get maybe a little inkling
it's societal. They're told to grin and bear it. Men are not supposed to cry. They're supposed to be macho. They have a role to follow. But has anybody traced back in terms of we as a people, the roots of domestic violence?
Well, you asked me that question a while ago, so you ready for the answer?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Well, where it manifested for us in terms of pointing to an accurate date, time, and everything like that, space, that's impossible to do. But where we saw it becoming common is during the time and after slavery, where you find that beating someone, basically you're looking for a specific outcome, and in order to get that outcome, you inflict lashes upon them in order to get that outcome. So being in that for 400 years, it became an accepted norm. So we see we do it to the children today. We want the children to behave a certain way, so we beat them until they behave that way. We want them to say a certain thing, we beat them until they say a certain thing.
And ask them what you're going for.
And ask them what you're going for.
But then, as it related to the adults, it was a culture of the plantation for women to be treated as just walking, talking baby machines.
Well, men
rather
too,
than
it
import,
was not just women, men
no,
as
no,
well.
seriously. Rather than import more enslaved from the continent, you use a plantation as breeding grounds. So the man was allowed to have as many women as possible for the purpose of populating the plantation. So women was not treated with any respect or any regard.
Well, I think that
and
might
so
not be,
that is a pattern
yeah,
that we as a people emerged from slavery.
yeah.
There was no education. There's never been any discussion as to why we behave that way. Why does a man have 10 and 15 women? He was conditioned that way on the
behave that way,
plantation.
yeah.
And his son grew up, seen his father doing the same thing, and that became the norm. Nobody has ever addressed that as to why. The West Indian male is seen as a womanizer. He was glorified and encouraged to live that way. And women would have adopted the role of just being the mother of children, and that's all. There was no education, no discussion, and so it is still a social norm. So to beat it out of other people now, you must have the conversation.
Right. Well, to add to what you say, I was trying to cut in when you were saying certain things, in that not that men could have as many women as they want. It was not the men in control of that.
Of course.
It was the planter who was doing
Yes,
that.
but
So-
you were conditioned.
Right. So the women and the men were used as instruments to bear children. So it was not a disrespect only to the women, but it was also a disrespect to the men.
male, yes.
Because the men, remember, if you look back at the black culture to some degree, as I say, some would have it that women it be looked upon like a god, a goddess.
But there has been an interruption in our development.
So in that slavery context now, we know in a society that we are basically, at least some of us are trying to find back ourselves, and we are taking shortcuts and not, as you say, addressing the main and major issue.
You must have that conversation.
Right.
Until you have the conversation, you're guessing as to why and this and that. In the
Right.
meantime, our young men are looking at their role models, their father, with 5 and 6, and children here and there, and that becomes the norm.
Become
for
the
them.
accepted norm.
Yes.
But don't just spread the ants, go look for the nest.
Correct.
You know? And if we do that, we're not looking for the nest though. What we're just trying to do is put plaster on the little this and spread the little ants.
Part of the problem.
So we're not going to the root
We
of
do
the
not
matter.
teach our history in school. We
Well-
teach a European version of who we are and what we are, and that's wrong. 400 years of brainwashing would have left us lots to unlearn, and that's our problem.
And we still manifesting that. That has also become a part of our DNA over time, because as I always like to use the example of like dogs, the Doberman dog, it look better with a short tail. But once you keep cutting that tail, over time you'll see the mother born dogs with no tail, because it now become a part of the DNA.
Okay.
So that has rooted itself in the DNA of the men in the Caribbean, as you just mentioned, that why some people wonder why men want to have more than one, and stuff like that. We see that instead of we going after it with a big stick, we should go after it with our mind. Let's try to understand it, see where it comes from, and educate ourselves about the situation.
Educate ourselves.
So that we could now get that DNA shift gears into the generation that is to come. But if we just go after it this shortcut way,
2 generations down the road, or no?
Well,
what you guys do now is very laudable, very important to bring the awareness. That's why I ask if your programs are remedial. But I have to go to the root of the problem. You have to have that conversation. And so the male know that we're trying to come out and say, yes, I'm an abused person, etc. He won't feel shy and shame of doing so, because his peers will say, boy, this boy, your mama's boy, etc. And that is our biggest problem. Yeah. And so we internalize. And we suffer in silence.
I want to say too that when it comes to emotion, because as you just mentioned, that might seem to be, as some people say, like a soft emotion, so men shouldn't do some of these things. But according to science, let's put a little science in the talk, it's showing you that the biological structure makeup of the human being, that in a man's head, in his brain, the area for emotion is much larger than the part for the woman. Therefore, the man is really more emotional than the
differently.
woman. But it's just that we look at emotion as things like, them soft things. We don't look at emotion as frustration and anger and fear. It's all emotion. Where you think a man wouldn't just get up and go to war with another man for no emotion. It normally starts with an emotion. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it is anger, sometimes it is jealousy, sometimes it is frustration. So men, we could see in society today, demonstrate more emotion than women, but we are thinking that the women are more emotional than the men. But yeah, I would love somebody to bring that and show me where women are more emotional than men. I mean, women...
I'm looking at her face and like, what? Talk to me. I respond to what he said just now.
Yeah, and some of the... I agree 100% that men are more emotional than women. There's been a narrative which is different over the years, but I agree with everything that Mr. Agard said. And it's rooted, it's institutionalized, not just in St. Kitts and Nevis, but in many, many countries. This issue about the stereotypes of gender and what men should be and how men should act and how men should react. It's all throughout our institutions, the police, force I have to speak about, because when men approach the police, I've had clients who are male victims of domestic violence. And if I tell you some of the responses that they have gotten from police officers, why you don't go home and beat her back and hit her back and use a man and you're disturbing us with this far and so on. You got the heart to say a woman slap you in your face.
Unfortunately, this kind of dialogue ends in tragedy.
Yep. Yeah. Because, if a man hits a woman back, he's not going to hit with the same force that the woman hits normally. Okay? And they may not take the same action.
That's sad.
But those are some of the... not all police, obviously. Not all police. And I want to say the Special Victims Unit has been doing some good work. But very rarely a victim of domestic violence is going to go straight to SVU. They're going to normally go to their local police station. They're going to go to the Tabernacle police station. They're going to go here. They will reach SVU later, if they reach at all. So we have to do the work all over the police force and the justice system.
Okay, a question I have about the evolution of violence in the family. Okay, we can make an argument about what happened on the plantations, and you can see a progression from generation to generation of blacks. But when you look even at today's society, where you have the same problem being exhibited in another race, let's say the white race. Okay, where did they get it from? I don't think they learned it from the blacks and from the plantation.
That's a good point.
If you look at even some Middle Eastern countries, where you can see the big difference in terms of how women are treated.
They're biblical.
Well,
that's Old Testament. That's religion.
Okay. So you have a problem in trying to break that cycle of what we learn from our parents and grandparents and so on, and educate them in a way that they know how to react and how to be polite among each other. I mean, even I know, and you mentioned about the historical part of using the English version of who we are and how we're supposed to behave. Now I know in the 60s, I think was the first time, and it was there was West Indian history was being taught.
The readers, West Indian readers.
No, it's a basic historical framework from a West Indian point of view versus what we got from England, and so from then to now, you should have seen some shift in the behavior of men towards women. And it persists, again, not only because of the black folks, but again, you have pretty much any race that exists, let's say.
Other cultures have practices that we would frown at. You mentioned the Middle East. That goes back to the Old Testament, the practices and the doctrines. We find in the Middle East, when you say it, like in Iran, those countries, etc., how they treat women, how they're supposed to conduct themselves. And there's a pushback against that because the natural state of man is to be free. They will fight. That's why you say enslave. You didn't go to Africa for slave. You enslave people. They're resistant. But I'm saying we've not had that conversation. Most of our intellectuals would have gone to UWI and those campuses. Where was the curriculum crafted? In Europe. So we put on jackets and ties. We have doctorate. Where was it crafted? They do not address Afro-Caribbean history in that sense. It's from a European context. Listen, we have our lawyers about us today wearing wigs.
We don't in St. Kitts and Nevis. No, we don't wear wigs.
The current Speaker of the House.
Oh, the Speaker. Well,
wearing the
that's
wigs.
Parliament. Yeah, that's Parliament.
Where does that come from?
But it was in our courts we don't.
I recall a few years ago I saw it was the opening of the court, the High Court season, and about 15, 20 lawyers around the clock heading to court in wigs.
No.
But Socrates, you're talking about the
You're
wigs.
talking many years ago.
When you go to the court right now,
Many
as a
years
man, you have to make sure your short tuck in your pants.
Yeah.
When there are some shorts designed not to be in your pants.
Okay.
But yet if you go...
But we were trained as that as part of a discipline.
It's part of that European...
But all government offices, you have to dress. There's a dress code. Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah, no, but where did the dress code come from?
I agree. I'm not supporting the dress code. I'm
You
just...
see? So it shows that what you're saying is evident in almost all areas of institution.
It's still there.
Yeah, it's still in the
So you come from UWI,
mental slavery.
you're so this and so that, your Prime Minister. Where did you get your education from? Who crafted that curriculum?
And we come and boast with it. We come and boast how good of a slave we are.
Yeah.
Mentally, how good of a slave we are. So we just the part, we act the part, and we speak the part.
Okay, that's cool. But before we go back to our main thing, wig. Would you ever wear a wig? You're no lawyer.
We don't have to wear.
You don't have to wear.
No, we don't have to wear. I'll tell you, my father is a lawyer for 50 years, and he's never worn a wig, so it was abolished before that time.
And those wigs became of white men back then. They were bald. And they adorned themselves with this wig and this and that and that. And we in the Caribbean wearing wigs. I'm saying,
but you see,
the parliament is another.
Outside of the court, remember, like women today think that their beauty lies in a weave, a braid, or a wig that they put on their head.
I have a whole thing on that. But in the meantime, we're going to deal with the context that we're here for today. So, Ms. Byron, there was a demonstration, the march, supportive of men who abuse.
And tomorrow, tell them
and tomorrow we're going to have...
Okay, so tomorrow the Women's Council should be traveling over to Nevis to lend support with some goodies for the children whose parents died in the fire over in Nevis.
That was a tragedy.
Yes, it was.
And it was a domestic violence.
And it was domestic.
As a result of? I saw the news item and didn't really get in much into detail. And there was one point of that involved a fire?
It was a fire, yes.
It was a fire.
Yeah, he lit the house with both of them inside of the house.
Causation?
I'm thinking.
Causation, is that?
Yeah. The causation? What
Yeah,
caused
that
it?
caused the fire.
Yeah.
Not the fire, him,
Well, the death
that
of both
mindset.
of them.
The mindset. Well,
Was it a fight that went sour? What was it?
Where she left.
Just enough?
there are reports that she made. There are reports that I've heard that the young lady who's now deceased had brought the matter to the authorities that she was being issued with death threats by her child's father. And apparently he even said it as well publicly, that I'm going to kill you and then I'm going to kill myself. And nobody's going to have you and things
He wasn't taken seriously?
Up to the day of the incident, I am told police met with him the day and let him know whatever it is.
But they weren't living together. They were not living together. She had moved out and she left him.
But a physical threat against one life is a arrestable offense.
He stabbed her. So he stabbed her 1st. So he stabbed. So it seems that he stabbed the young lady first and then lit the fire. Okay.
That's extreme. Okay, I raised a point earlier, and I would like you guys to weigh in on this. It's your program, but I'm thinking that some of the influencers that allow children to go with that mindset is music is a very powerful influencer. And a lot of the content that many of the presenters play today is not healthy. And this should be something that you should take on, bring them in as part of the conversation, because they're actually influencing and poisoning the mind of Generation X.
Yeah.
Well, it's not only just the music, but according to some scientific research, it also showed that the frequency also at which the music is played makes it easier to penetrate the listener in a sense of subliminal messaging to them. So
I'm like a scientist. I'm dealing with the lyrics.
He's a researcher.
I'm dealing with the lyrics.
Do they really listen
The
to
nasty lyrics.
But do they really listen to the lyrics, or is just the beat that
The
they
rhythm,
like? Yes.
One attracts the other.
To me, humans, Kititians or the Caribbean people like beat.
black people are rhythm.
Afro-Caribbean
Yes,
people
they
were
like
into the
rhythm.
rhythms. It was also a form of resistance because our culture, our customs, our drums were banned.
Right.
So every chance we get, we're going to walk up. That's with music. And we remind us of who we are. We're very aesthetic people.
Actually, I wouldn't go with the woke up thing, because if you even check
I
out
just-
Both of
Ethiopia
them.
today, they are people of rhythm, and their dance is only the upper body.
Yeah, the shoulder.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just the upper body. This gyration and so on, this was entertainment.
cultures.
No, this was entertainment for the slave master.
Okay.
And we thought that it's something that came from our homeland, but we realize now that our homeland is now looking at the things that we're doing
And saying,
and doing it and starting to do it.
okay.
So this gyration, this, as you call, walk up, is not really our culture.
So where do you get a chance to teach that?
Teach what?
Will you just explain to the listeners?
Oh well, give me a show on Winner FM, and we'll teach as much as we can.
Mr. Mills.
The thing is, you're in the entertainment business, and again, you've got two groups. You have the listeners, and you have the people who produce the music. Now, the same people who produce the music are all people. The same, they've been young, and they come up the same way. And so now they are feeding, I don't want to use the word poison, but they're feeding things to the minds of the youngsters that may not be healthy to them.
Quite so.
So if you've got two groups and they coexist basically with just within an age difference, who do you start with first? The ones who produce or the ones who listen? And you can see it is a difficult situation.
They
because
cater to the market. They cater to the market. And they actually create a market for that kind of stuff. But
you see, but government can regulate, and that's something that we have to remember too. In Jamaica recently, they banned a certain number of categories of music on the airways. They cannot play certain violent songs anymore. They can't play songs celebrating use of drugs and cocaine and those kind of things on the air anymore.
that's a wonderful way to start.
They've done that, so you just cut that.
So
Okay,
we need
if you go on YouTube and you hear it, that's the government can't necessarily go down that far, but they're doing what they can. Those songs that are banned, we hear playing the same Jamaican songs. They can't play them on the radio in Jamaica, but here we are playing them.
We've created a market for it and an appetite for it. So today's match, we're hoping to get more men. I have a gentleman over there who's supposed to be he's from Africa. Look at him, you know him, right?
Okay.
Blessed. And he's going to speak about the similarities of the music you would have heard in Africa to St. Kitts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Our music is the same. He said, but I heard this in Africa. This is the same music.
Interesting.
Calypso, the same rhythm, the same patterns. So he's going to be speaking about that. We are connected. We were told that Calypso is bad, is devil music. Because it was a messenger. We sang in chords, a double entendre, to get the message to a people. That's why you went to church to be told, don't sing calypso, it's devil music, it's devil worship. And we bought that. That was taught from the pulpits. Again, the indoctrination.
Steel pan.
Pardon?
Even steel pan, they didn't want that played in church. Even.
Of course.
Well, I don't know where that came from because when I used to go to church as a little youth, even at the age of 14, in them age group there, I was told that calypso is basically the political voice of the people.
It's also protest.
Right.
Calypso always protest.
So I never heard of that element that you just mentioned because, I mean, yeah, there's some music definitely that might be a little bit out of order, but I personally don't like calypso. I mean, but I listen.
Got a problem with that, but it's okay.
No, what I don't like is not that I don't like the lyrics, the beat that calypso have. I just don't like that beat. But the other beats I used to break dance. I mean, come on.
No problem. But a song that we actually applauded about like 30 years ago was done by Sparrow, The New Philosophy. And the chorus was Black up she eye, booze up she knee, and she will love eternally. That was applauded. Today, that song is banned. You remember the song?
I remember it, yeah.
Yeah, we used to sing it and women black up she eye, booze up she knee, and we love you. And that was the mindset back then, but we are more enlightened people. So I want to ask a question today now, in reflection of 30 years ago, how does domestic violence in this environment compare with 30 years ago?
Well, let me ask you, I mean, as a calypsonian, with that song, it just got to my mind, was he using it as a metaphor?
No, black up she eye.
He was straight up saying it. Okay.
I've discovered a new philosophy, how to live with women happily. I repeat it. He said what Socrates and Plato did know. I'm going to suck it to you in calypso. Every now and then, cuff them down. They love you long and love you strong. Rip off she wig for her friend to see. She will love you eternally.
Wow.
Yeah. No, seriously, it was a big hit.
That's probably why I didn't like calypso.
And he got his doctorate. No, don't even try that. Don't do that. Because through Black Stalin, I learned a lot about my history. The Calypsonian educators. And many songs speak to domestic violence. Many songs. Right? So I would like to be able to observe that mass today. What time is it supposed to start?
At 4.
At 4.
At the
Starting from
local
where?
market.
At
On the Bay Road.
On Bay Road?
Yes.
You want to send an invitation to anyone? I mean, like who are listening?
Yes, I want to send the invitation out. Yes.
Send your invitation to the folks you want to reach.
Please.
And Mr. Mills, talk to your potential gathering later on.
Well, men, I know that you are very conservative at times, but at least today, do yourself a favor. Help to support the cause. It will help everyone in the long run. And I know, especially, everyone has a black shirt.
Yeah.
So let that not be impediment to you coming to the march at 4 o'clock at the market. See you there.
And you proceed from the market to where?
Independence Square.
There will be other form of entertainment, speakers.
No, that's
Just
it.
a
It's a silent protest.
Protest.
Yes.
Mr. Edgar, do you have a black shirt? Are you going to be in the black shirt also?
We'll see.
We'll see.
You hear the men? You hear the men?
You understand? It's a serious problem, domestic violence on either side. And the more awareness is brought to it, because I saw you on the video clip in Sandy Point, and you inspired me with that song. The song called Enough.
Yes.
A few lines of it.
A murder, a tragedy, because the police didn't take her seriously. Demonstration in SP, demanding justice for the young lady. Lots of speculation on the matter. And I forget the last line, right? But judging by the police behavior, but it goes, enough, the chorus says, enough of domestic violence, enough of suffering in silence. You know, right?
Lady Karen.
Yes.
It's playing in my mind and I'm hearing it.
But he's the author.
And it goes, if we can't turn to you, to the police now, when seeking rescue, what are we to do when we've had enough?
Exactly.
And she'll be singing that song tomorrow night in the Calypso Illuminations.
She sang it for the 16 days, the start of the 16 days activity. We
Okay.
were in the square. Just to say it was a federal launch between St. Kitts and Nevis. We starting off the activities and she sang that same song. And it just
So
stuck
why
in my
did you take it
mind.
as an anthem? Because it speaks to this particular situation.
That's why I was
on
wondering.
both sides.
Yeah, that's why I was wondering, how can we take it?
I can get
Right
some.
now-
I would love the royalties. What do you say? We have permission because it's a cause that needs addressing
Right.
and more awareness. And she can be an ambassador. It speaks exactly to the situation on both sides,
Perfect.
both male and female. You're sending the police because you mentioned that the situation in Nevis, on the very day, the police, they went to the police.
Exactly.
So if we can't turn to the police, he says, if we can't turn to you when seeking rescue, what are we to do when we've had enough?
Beautiful song. Yeah.
And the young man over there, saxophonist, he plays in the Legends Band. He's accompanying, so, and we had a conversation about the calypso, the similarities between here and Africa.
Yeah.
So we got about, we should take a quick break and then come back for a wrap up, please. Thank you.
It's that time again. TDC Insurance is offering awesome deals in its holiday extravaganza. Buying a new car? Get up to 60% off your motor insurance, free windshield cover, 0% interest free, cashback, and so much more. Buying a house? Save up to 30% on home insurance and additional discounts if you pair with your new car. It's crazy this holiday season at TDC Insurance with our TDC Insurance Holiday Extravaganza. Terms and conditions apply.
Jingle all the way home to Flow, where the speed is faster and price is better. All the way home to Flow. Merry connections that bring us together, yeah.
Christmas starts the moment you bundle your Flow internet with your Flow mobile. Because when you do, you get a free laptop. Plus, you get 100 megabits per second internet speed, 20 gigabytes of data, 4,000 local minutes, and unlimited WhatsApp and YouTube. That's our Christmas jingling your way to keep family close for Christmas and every day.
All the way home to Flow.
Visit discoverflow.co for more information.
We got just about 6 minutes to wrap up this very important discussion this morning. We have two very dynamic groups, and they're in the studio speaking about domestic violence, to bring awareness. To bring awareness, and the more, the better. We have Mr. Igad, we have Mr. Mills, we have Miss Byron, who swears she won't wear wigs. And we have to court, you want wigs to court. That's such an insult. But nobody asked me. I'm very Afrocentric about way of all this. I mean, you wearing a white, and it's a white wig.
A white wig.
A white wig.
Yeah, a white wig at that.
With curls.
Yeah, I said.
You should have a
Anyway,
program on that.
who wants to lead? We got about we got about 6 minutes. We can still talk about other things.
Okay.
Apart from the march later on, whatever programs, this is 16 days awareness. So.
Okay, there's one quick thing I want to address, and that is public sensitization. When these things happen, we have a lot of people, whether they're videotaping, they're sending over voice notes and messages, and sometimes we have to remember these people have families as well. I believe in people, if they die, God forbid, but they die with dignity. Not die with, a lot of stories over the head when may not have been true, but it's how now we as the men and the Women's Council and the government, the other NGOs can join together and sensitize the public about, how do we behave towards these people? Are we going to be sympathetic towards them? Or is it that, it's all about a chatter?
Sensationalism. That's all it is about at the point in time.
Not straying, but I remember when the guy died in Halfway Tree, and all his private area was just shown, and he was just going around, and everybody's just seeing it. And all I'm thinking is that if you have a son and you have a daughter in school, and this pops up on, their parents' phone, children have phones. Let me not even say parents. Children have phones, and if they're seeing, it's in the classroom, and your child have it in the class, and the same child of that,
traumatized forever.
Right. So it's about sensitization and the public and how do we act, as adults. People may say, well, it's what we're accustomed to do. No. I don't think that is what we are accustomed to. When they introduce electronics, when they introduce phones, that problem came with it.
So once again, it's education.
I think that the general idea concerning policing issues need educating, need training, and so on to deal with some of these issues as well, because what was just mentioned, sometimes police themselves be doing some of the same thing.
Contribute.
I actually saw police across Old Road Bay videotaping a Jeep in the water with the person still in the Jeep trying to get out.
Wow.
So, I guess they were waiting for the other, like, fire truck, whatever.
I guess you couldn't swim.
But how could you console
and
the
they're
person?
videotaping it. So, yeah, I think we need proper educating, training, and so on in order to
sensitization. I got a little tight over here. I'm dehydrated, that's why.
Because even going back to the very start of the program, where the mention of the act and so on, the domestic violence act and all these different things. If the police are not trained or educated in these things, you'll not see any difference in how they respond to even a man when he go and make a complaint that he was just beaten up by his queen or whatever the case may be. So, they need proper training, and even government, even our parliamentarians. I mean, we shouldn't be thinking that because they were voted for that they know everything. So they too need educating. They too also might need some training and understanding how some of these things work in order for it to actually have an impact.
Quickly, you can get pushback from some police officers who say, okay, we responded to that location many, many times, and she said she changed her mind. You're going to get that. That's part of the conversation. We've showed up, she's asked for help. When we show up, whatever, she changed her mind, so we just didn't take it on anymore. Mr. Mills.
Yes, here again, we have to be very serious about violence in the home, in society. And education is going to be very important. Again, having some format, at least in the classroom, sensitizing the youngsters as to what constitutes violence. Again, as we mentioned, it could be verbal, it could be physical, a lot of things that encompass in that. So we have to train those, even the adults have to retrain them. I know sometimes that's much more of a difficult task because they are so set in their ways and the way they have seen society react. And as we've mentioned here, sometimes you go to the authorities, which is usually the correct thing to do, and you don't get what you might call satisfaction. And in a way, you think maybe it's the correct thing to do. Or you see your neighbors doing it, and nobody responds to that. But we have to break that cycle. It's not a good cycle. It's a difficult cycle to break, but we have to start somewhere.
Quick question. If you don't get a good turnout today, I know you'll be kind of disappointed, but what's your next step?
We got to push.
Continue.
We still have
Keep
to
pushing.
continue. Keep pushing. Yeah.
We know it's not easy.
Mr. Byron, the last word.
In terms of the situations you mentioned where women change their mind or somebody feels that it's not worth pursuing, the police may feel that it's not worth pursuing because the women may change their mind. We have to have an appreciation that this is a very complex issue. It's not black and white. There are a lot of layers to this. We have to have an appreciation of the psychology of battered women and men, what they are going through. They need compassion. They need our patience with them. They need our love and support. A lot of the reasons why people change their mind has to do with a lack of support from us, from us as a society. Well, if I go through with this case, is there a support system that I have? I have no family, I have no real friends. Who will help me? Where will I go if I move out? Who will help my children? Yes, I want this man to be in jail, but at least he's paying some child support, or he's and if I lose that, what happens to my children? He's beating me, I will take it. But my children need some help.
Actually, out of time. Can you give me just quickly a couple of support groups? Yes.
A couple of support groups. Chanel, you want to take on that?
Okay, we have different NGOs, like we have ours, St. Kitts Nevis National Women's Council, we have the National Men's Council, we have other groups like Silence No More, No Judgment, SKN is a sexual offense group. I can't remember all the groups off of my head.
One number.
But there are numbers that you can call. Special Victims Unit have a emergency, online. Special Victims have this on-call phone that you could call anytime, and it's 662-7077. Gender Affairs also has one, and it's 765-5492.
It's 12:01. We are due for the midday newscast. I want to thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being here, sharing your wealth of information and encouragement for those who are in abuse situation. Thank you once again. We now pause for the midday newscast.
You found the sound. 98.9. Win FM.
We now bring you the headline news. The headline news is brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, The Grange, KDP Enterprises, Carib Brewery, and the ICDF Taiwan Technical Mission.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world, whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous. You can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International, by land, sea or air, we get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises at 466-9595.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Think before you bin it. There can be some use in it. The Nevis Solid Waste Management Authority, in collaboration with Taiwan ICDF Technical Mission and the Department of Environment, presents Let's Recycle. We're encouraging all residential homes, commercial businesses, and schools to bring along your plastic bottles, metal cans, and aluminum cans, ready for an opportunity to win big. From 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the following locations: in Nevis, every second and fourth Friday of each month at Delta Petroleum, ex-Petrol in Camps, Big Six in Gingerland, and the Old Artisan Village in Charlestown. In St. Kitts, every second and fourth Tuesday at the Connery Roundabout, every first and third Tuesday at Buckley's parking lot in front of Best Buy, and the last Saturday of each month in Dieppe Bay. But wait, that's not all. 1 pound equals 1 point. So bring your recyclables and build up your points for a chance to win stainless steel thermal bottles, flatware, and much more. To learn more about the recycling project, do visit our Facebook page at Let's Recycle in St. Kitts and Nevis, or contact us at 465-2372. The choice is yours. Save it or waste it. You are the difference. So think smart. Take PAT, reduce, reuse, recycle.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
Tis the season to save with Delayed Woman and Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Purchasing a new car this Christmas? Save up to 65% off. Yes, that's 65% off your motor insurance premiums. Switch and save.
With the WIN Headline News, I am Kevon Brown.
And I am Yolana Weeks.
Making the headlines.
Small Business Development Center ensures that St. Kitts Nevis entrepreneurs and small businesses remain relevant post-COVID-19. Prime Minister Drew congratulates re-elected Prime Minister of Dominica.
Cuban president ends Southern Caribbean tour with visit to Grenada. Internationally, Russian President Vladimir Putin has vowed to continue attacking Ukraine's energy infrastructure throughout the winter. Meanwhile, clashes between soldiers and insurgents in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo has sent hundreds of thousands fleeing their homes. Now, the details.
The risk of entrepreneurship was tested by the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic globally. But entrepreneurs and small businesses in St. Kitts and Nevis specifically are making efforts to adjust, adapt, and remain relevant now that the country's COVID-19 restrictions have been lifted. The Small Business Development Center, SBDC, has for the past few months ramped up its effort to ensure that small businesses and entrepreneurs come together in one place to collaborate, sell, and market their products through initiatives such as the Night Small Business Expo, which was held on Tuesday, December 6, and other similar events held previously. Speaking to SKN Vibes at the Night Expo, Mr. Philip Brown, director at the Small Business Development Center in St. Kitts, said the SBDC plays an essential role in helping small businesses survive post-COVID. Notwithstanding that, the pandemic also brought some positivity regarding entrepreneurship.
We understand that COVID would have taken a toll on businesses the globe over. And so what we really want to do is to ensure that we find ways to provide the developmental support and the things we can do to make them really succeed post-COVID. COVID didn't do all bad. COVID did force some of us into that area of entrepreneurship, that survival mode. And what we are seeing now is that persons who would have pivoted, maybe they were doing something before, and found ways to survive, are now looking at ways to enhance and improve the efforts that they would have started during COVID.
Whilst some small businesses have returned to normal or near normal business activity, others continue to endure hardship due to the economy. Brown said the SBDC has been supporting small businesses and entrepreneurs not only in sourcing finances, but creating opportunities for business owners to learn how to handle their current position and how to plan for the future.
We make it a point to tell people very early that we are not financiers. We don't provide financing, but we lead you to the financing. We prepare you for the financing, and thereafter we would want to help you to use that financing properly. So our role really is to ensure that we could influence that financial market. When you present to a financier, be it a commercial bank, the traditional financing fraternity, we would want you to be able to stand up, put your proposal forward, and make sure that they understand you are a viable entity. So therefore, that's what we do. Try to develop by way of business plans. We support by way of import duty concessions and so on. And there are a number of other management general activities that we would assist with. But you realize I said assist. We don't do it for you. We do it with you.
Brown said there has been an increase in the number of small businesses and entrepreneurs approaching the SBDC for assistance. The SBDC program for St. Kitts and Nevis includes advice to existing small businesses and pre-venture entrepreneurs, assistance with accessing capital, support in creating and improving business plans, marketing and sale opportunities, business administration and financial management support, as well as other essential strategies to ensure business growth, increased production, innovation, and profitability. The Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, Honorable Dr. Terence True, has extended a congratulatory message to the Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit and the Dominica Labour Party for their 6th consecutive success at the polls. Prime Minister Drew told the Skerrit that he had made his mark on the national, regional, and international landscape, which was solidified through the confidence that the people of Dominica placed in him at the polls once more. Quote, "The people of Dominica have spoken resoundingly through their votes, demonstrating their confidence in you as a leader. You have made your mark not only nationally, but regionally and internationally for your hands-on leadership abilities. During your chairmanship of the Caribbean Community CARICOM and the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, OECS, you made your mark during periods when the region and the world were faced with economic challenges and helped our region to overcome with confidence." End quote. Drew added, quote, "Your dedicated leadership has been lauded for making significant contributions toward bridging the gap between the predominantly English-speaking Caribbean region and the predominantly Spanish-speaking Latin American region. Your repeated success at the polls is an indication of the trust and faith the people of the Commonwealth of Dominica have in you and the Dominica Labour Party, and their willingness to embrace your innovative thinking and future plans for the country." End quote. The Dominica Labour Party was victorious at the polls, winning 19 of the 21 seats in the country's election on December 6, 2022.
In regional news, Cuban president ends Southern Caribbean tour with visit to Grenada. Primetime Caribbean has that report.
Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel has ended his near-week Southern Caribbean tour with the end of his official visit to Grenada Thursday. Tahira Burke.
The Cuban president described his Grenada visit as emotional and unforgettable, Grenada being a place where dozens of his people died at the hands of invading U.S. troops in 1983. The Cuban president was greeted with pomp and pageantry on the airport that was built largely with Cuban assistance and named after Grenadian hero Morris Bishop, a close friend of late Cuban President Fidel Castro. President Miguel Diaz-Canel's stop in Grenada was his third on his Southern Caribbean swing this week. Grenada was one of Cuba's closest allies during the 1979 to 1983 revolution. Just outside of the airport, there is a monument for Cuban internationalist workers who were killed during the 1983 U.S. invasion that ended the Grenada Revolution. Writing on his Facebook page, the Cuban president said, and I quote, "We placed a floral offering in memorial dedicated to the 24 Cubans fallen alongside Grenadian brothers in unequal combat during the U.S. invasion of this sister nation. We remember Morris Bishop, leader of the heroic revolution that marked the fate of Grenada," unquote. Inside the airport, a plaque from 20 years ago installed when the late Castro visited. The interpreter accompanying the president had worked in Grenada and was in harm's way during the invasion. President Diaz-Canel held talks with the island's Governor-General Dame Cecile La Grenade, a cousin of late Bishop. At the Grenada Trade Center, he met with Cuban workers currently working in Grenada, as well as scores of Grenadians who have been trained in Cuba. Diaz-Canel posted after the meeting, "Thank you all for the emotions experienced in this unforgettable visit."
Visita que necesitaba esta oportunidad que hemos tenido hoy.
This visit today represents and all the yearning on our part, and the warm and transparent discussions we have held today have only come to confirm the necessity that we visited with you.
Quisiera añadir que como un pueblo aquí en Grenada,
Like on his stop in St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Barbados, the Cuban president got a warm welcome in Grenada, and new Prime Minister Dickon Mitchell hailed the relations between the two countries. The Cuban and Grenada delegations discussed broad areas of cooperation.
Both parties committed to continuing to collaborate and to work together and to strengthen and deepen our bonds of friendship.
The Cuban president invited Prime Minister Mitchell to make his first official visit to Havana at his convenience. There is widespread solidarity with Cuba in these islands, a fact that manifested itself at every stop, from St. Vincent to Barbados and then Grenada.
As you're aware, Grenada and Cuba share deep and profound ties dating over 40 years. Our bonds of friendship, brotherhood, fraternity has benefited both countries, and in the case of Grenada, I dare say we've perhaps had the lion's share of the benefit.
This region is also still fretting about how the Cuban government and people have been treated through the years because of U.S. sanctions against Havana that has been repeatedly condemned at the United Nations.
We assured the President and the Cuban delegation of Grenada's unwavering support and commitment to supporting the continued calls for the removal of the American blockade against the Cuban people and for the removal of Cuba from the list of countries that sponsor state terrorism.
With ties between Cuba and its southern Caribbean neighbors as strong as ever, and with new commitments to increase all levels of cooperation, the Cuban leader, he and his delegation, are well pleased with the outcome. From the Carib Public News Service, I am Tahira Burke for Primetime Caribbean.
We now bring you these international reports.
Let's turn to Ukraine. President Putin has promised to carry on attacking Ukraine's energy infrastructure. Russian missile strikes have left millions of people without electricity in Ukraine, where winter temperatures are below zero. He said growing global criticism wouldn't interfere with missions in Ukraine. Let's go to Ukraine now and talk to our correspondent Hugo Bashega in Kyiv. President Putin, Hugo, absolutely unapologetic about targeting civilian infrastructure, even blaming Ukraine for starting it. What effect is this having?
Yeah, Karen, and the Ukrainians have been saying that this is how Russia is responding to military defeats on the battlefield, by attacking civilian sites and civilian infrastructure in cities away from the front lines. And I don't think President Putin's comments will come as a surprise here. The authorities have been saying that Russia is likely to continue targeting civilian infrastructure, accusing Russia of weaponizing a winter. And as you can see, it is cold. Temperatures here in Kyiv and across the country are now below freezing, and you have potentially tens of millions of people across the country facing very difficult conditions, without heating, without electricity, and in some places even without water. And some Western officials have been saying that these attacks could amount to war crimes because of the destruction that has been caused to this country's civilian infrastructure. But again, President Putin yesterday saying that this criticism will not stop the attacks that have been carried out by Russia. So we've seen that Russia has been using missiles, but also Iranian-made drones to carry out those attacks. And later today, the Biden administration is expected to announce more sanctions targeting Russia, specifically related to these drones that have been used by Russia. And we had an update earlier this morning from the UK Defense Ministry saying that Russia is likely to have received a new supply of those drones, again, that have been used to attack this country's energy infrastructure.
And Hugo, what has this winter weather meant for the actual fighting, where Russia has had so many major setbacks in recent weeks?
Yeah, it seems that we're seeing a little bit of a lull, relatively speaking, in terms of the fighting after the Russians abandoned the city of Kherson almost a month ago. And the Ukrainians are regrouping, but a lot of activities happening in the east of the country, especially around the town of Bakhmut in the eastern Donetsk region. And for weeks we've been talking about this town. It doesn't have a lot of military significance, but it seems that the Russians are trying to capture this town to perhaps sell it as a victory for the Russian public after a series of setbacks and defeats in recent weeks. And we had an update from the Ukrainian government yesterday, an advisor to President Zelensky, who said that Russia had intensified its efforts in Donetsk and also in Luhansk, also in the east of the country, and that the Russian forces are trying now to carry out offensive operations in that part of the country.
At a cholera treatment center in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, a doctor is trying to coax a 6-year-old boy into drinking water. The child is among tens of thousands displaced by rebel violence in North Kivu province. Now another danger, disease, is spreading through the makeshift camp where he lives. The boy's mother, Christine Yuramahigwe, says they've been at the Médecins Sans Frontières facility since Monday.
He started getting sick in the morning. He was vomiting many times, and then I brought him here. He was very tired. They started to treat him. I see that little by little he has regained strength. The last 2 days at least, it's okay.
Congo's military is battling insurgents from the M23 group. The United Nations estimates that 390,000 people have been displaced. The treatment centre on the outskirts of the provincial capital Goma is new and headed by Dr. Bishikwabo Irenge. Dr. Irenge says another facility couldn't contain the rising number of cholera cases. MSF says more than 250 patients have been admitted to the new unit since it opened on November 26th.
Now, US regulators are trying to block Microsoft from buying the firm Activision Blizzard, which is behind games such as Call of Duty and Candy Crush. It's because of a concern over competition. Now, the regulators worry that the $69 billion deal would mean Activision games would stop being available on non-Microsoft gaming consoles. To tell us more about this, our gaming correspondent Stefan Powell is with us. So just a bit more detail regarding this deal. Has it come as a surprise?
Not really, because there's been a lot of whispers about this and a lot of disquiet in the FTC with the deal for a while. And like you've mentioned, the Competition and Markets Authority here in the UK has also raised questions about this and is investigating potentially, should this deal go through, it'll be the biggest deal in video gaming history by some distance, $70 million, pretty much around £60 million. And if you put that into context in terms of other industries as well, to sort of show the power of the games industry, when it's a long time ago now, over a decade ago, but when Disney bought Marvel, for example, of course the makers of all the superhero movies, that was worth $4 billion. And when Facebook bought Instagram in 2012, that was $1 billion. So this is a $70 billion deal. So it's a massive in scope, and so the level of scrutiny is matching it. And essentially what's happening is there's a lot of politics at play here in the States. There are many Democrats on the FTC, and they're concerned about monopolies, especially in the technology sector, and so they're taking this very seriously, which is why that it's now going to be decided by a court in the US as to whether or not this deal can go ahead. And like you've mentioned, essentially it comes down to competition. There's a concern that if Microsoft owned these mega franchises like Call of Duty, which has over 70 million players worldwide playing its current title at the moment, if it owned those games, it could then potentially restrict access to those titles for people who don't own Xbox consoles. So, for example, Sony PlayStation have been unhappy about the deal because they say that, hang about, if all these titles made by Activision Blizzard become Microsoft exclusive, that puts them in too much of a powerful, prominent position in the market, and so it's unfair. And that's how we've ended up in this situation.
Is there precedent for that happening with tech companies, Stefan?
Well, on this scale in the gaming industry, there isn't. This is fairly new ground for the gaming industry. There's never been a deal of this scope before. Should the deal go through, Microsoft would become the third biggest games player in the games market. There's a company that is based or originated from China called Tencent that is the market leader at the moment. Then you've got Sony as well, who produce the Microsoft consoles and other games. And then you'd have Microsoft in third place should this deal go ahead. And so that is a concern for some of the people looking into this, is the fact that this is new ground. It hasn't really been seen before. And with a sector that changes so rapidly all of the time, the way that competition affects players and people at home who spend their hard-earned money on these games is always changing as well, and trends change quickly. And so trying to keep up with that is very difficult, which is perhaps why that some people in the FTC are trying to sort of slow this process down and have a look at what this will mean long term. As for Microsoft and Activision themselves, who clearly want the deal to go through, they signed the agreement in the first place earlier on this year. They're quite frustrated because what they're saying publicly is actually this deal would be good for competition, and they've already sort of made overtures to some other games companies like Nintendo to try and work with them in the future. It's quite murky, it's quite complicated, but what it does mean is that, you know, there is a degree of uncertainty for gamers now over the next few months while this plays itself out. Because if I'm a Call of Duty player, if I love playing Call of Duty, there is uncertainty at the moment as to what devices I will be able to play that game in the future. So people are waiting with bated breath to see what will happen with this decision, which will now go ahead in front of a judge in the US in the coming months.
Stefan Powell, thank you so much for that. Thank you.
A routine parliamentary session descends into violence. A member of parliament slaps and kicks one of his colleagues. The woman was pregnant and has since miscarried. Even so, some politicians say she deserved the beating.
She started it. I understand the MP that hit her. She insulted his religious leader. I disapprove of what happened.
Charges have been laid against the offending MP, but despite robust new laws to protect women and girls in Senegal, research shows 68% of women victims of such crimes never speak out. It took Mama Mbang 19 years to summon up the courage to bring an end to her marriage and the daily blows that came with living with her husband. He would beat her unconscious, hitting her so hard that he damaged the nerves at the base of her skull, leaving her blind in the right eye. Mbang eventually left him and approached the police, but he continues to threaten her.
It's painful. It really hurts that he is still free. After everything he has done, he continues to harass me and goes looking for me, but I want to live my life.
Her closest relatives knew about the violence but did nothing to stop it. According to the UN, 1 in 3 women worldwide experience sexual or domestic violence.
The rise in number of cases is linked to fear of denouncing such acts and certain level of negligence and normalization of domestic violence. It is certainly the case in the household and beyond.
The brawl in Parliament has sparked a national conversation about the treatment of women, and it's not the only case in the public spotlight.
We're outside the main courthouse in Dakar, where Ousmane Sonko, the main opposition leader, is standing trial for rape. Look at the headlines. It says, "She is finally ready." The moment she has been waiting for, or this one, the sweet and beautiful duel. There's an undertone of sexism where the onus is on the woman to prove her innocence rather than on the man.
Few women are willing to come forward. Many of those who do are still afraid, but defiant, rebuilding their lives one step at a time. Nicholas Hawk, Al Jazeera, Dakar.
You were listening to the WinFM Headline News on 98.9. Our top stories were:
Small Business Development Center ensures that St. Kitts Nevis entrepreneurs and small businesses remain relevant post-COVID-19. Prime Minister Drew congratulates re-elected Prime Minister of Dominica.
Cuban president ends Southern Caribbean tour with visit to Grenada. Internationally, Russian President Vladimir Putin has vowed to continue attacking Ukraine's energy infrastructure throughout the winter. Meanwhile, clashes between soldiers and insurgents in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo has sent hundreds of thousands fleeing their homes. Thank you for listening.
That was the WinFM Headline News. The Headline News is brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, The Grange, KDP Enterprises, Carib Brewery, and the ICDF Taiwan Technical Mission.
You have the keys to your new car this Christmas? Now it's time to get it insured. Visit DeDeal Baldwin, agents for Caribbean Alliance Insurance, to save up to 65% off your motor insurance premium. All new clients are eligible for major discounts. Plus, there's lots of sweet prizes to be won. Switch and save and get in on the action. Visit us today in St. Kitts or Nevis, or give us a call at 465-2631 or 469-5303. Promotion ends December 31st and all quotes are valid until January 31st. Drive secure this Christmas with Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Terms and conditions apply.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
Think before you bin it. There can be some use in it. The St. Kitts and Nevis Solid Waste Management, in collaboration with Taiwan ICDF Technical Mission and the Department of Environment, presents Let's Recycle. We are encouraging all residential homes, commercial businesses, and schools to bring along your plastic bottles, metal cans, and aluminum cans, ready for an opportunity to win big. From 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. every second and fourth Tuesday each month at the following locations in St. Kitts: the Connery Roundabout, every first and third Tuesday at Buckley's parking lot in front of Best Buy, and the last Saturday of each month in Deep Bay. In Nevis, every second and fourth Friday of each month at Delta Petroleum, Ex-Petrol in Camps, Big Six in Gingerland, and Old Artisan Village in Charlestown. But wait, that's not all. 1 pound equals 1 point. So bring your recyclables and build up your points for a chance to win stainless steel thermal bottle, flatware set, and much more. To learn more about the recycling project, do visit our Facebook page at Let's Recycle in St. Kitts and Nevis, or contact us at 465-2372. The choice is yours. Save it or waste it. You are the difference. Reduce, reuse, recycle.
With over a century of perfection behind the Mackeson name, a smooth blend with perfect balance and richness, it's no wonder Mackeson Triple Stout has a legacy of perfection. Enjoy the world over. Introducing our new look with the same great taste. Mackeson. All hail the king.
Please drink responsibly.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world, whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous. You can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International. By land, sea or air, we get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises at 466-9595.
Found the sound 98.9 FM.
Here are your Horsford's Value Mart IGA Value Club Christmas specials, running December 1st through 14th. Nature Valley granola bars, $12.99. Super Chill sodas, $6.99. Sunny Delights, tangy and smooth, $4.99. Celeste pizzas, $6.99. Essential Everyday fries, $13.99. Essential Everyday barbecue sauces, $5.99. And now our very low weekly value deals. Multi-meal cereals, $13.99. Pillsbury cake mixes, $6.49. Purex liquid laundry detergents, $14.99. Dial soap, $9.99. Palmolive dish liquid, $9.49. Renews It adjustable air freshener, just $4.99. Shop smart, shop Value Mart. Sea listo y haga sus compras aquí a Value Mart.
We got 12:36 on the clock as we get back into the second half of today's program. You're logged on to WinFM 98.9, listening to Voices. My name is Socrates, host of this fantastic Friday episode of Voices. And with me now in the studios, sitting across from me is a very, very, very talented young man. Those who know him by the name of Blessed, an awesome musician, saxophonist. He has been playing with the Legends Band for the past couple of, I would say roughly 2 months. Rehearsals are now featured in the tents. And from there, we had a very interesting conversation about the nature of the music that we played and the similarities he would have noted in music from the motherland. So I'm going to have him introduce himself by his proper name and then tell you about our conversations. And I think there's a track or two has been queued up, so you can actually realize the music, the origin, the similarities based on his what he's observed. So, sir, the mic is yours.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. My name is Blessed.
You might want to speak up. You have a soft voice, but
my name is Blessed. Good morning. That's my first name. My surname is Obum, and I have it.
Blessed Obum.
Obum, yeah.
Beautiful.
Then I have plenty middle names. Okay, so there's this thing in my culture.
Mm-hmm.
So when they have something called a naming ceremony. So after a child is born, about 14 days after the child is born, the parents come and the uncles and aunties and friends and everybody in the street and the neighborhood comes and they do a ceremony to name the child. So the parents, of course, will have first go at it and say, okay, this is the name of the child.
Your first name is Blessed?
Yes.
I thought that was like an affectionate name.
No, it's actually Blessed.
Blessed Obum.
Yeah. So that my surname is Obum, yeah. Then every other person now gives names and that becomes your middle names. So, but eventually one of them becomes the name that everybody knows you by and that becomes your first name. So, but everybody knows me by Blessed because that's what my parents actually gave to me. And you have your middle names. Like one of them is Olise.
You have a soft voice. You got to speak up.
Okay, so one of my middle names is Olise. Mm-hmm. And with your traditional names, we can almost like track you to what village you're from, what street you're from what family you're from.
Okay.
So names have meanings and it has a connection to where you are actually from.
Okay.
So you're talking about the conversation we had and how I was saying that a lot of this music I hear is very nostalgic. And I found it interesting. When I came in and I heard you guys talking about gyration, we do have gyration back in Africa. So the history of it is, so for example, there's an ethnic group where my mom is from. It's called the Igbo people.
Igbo, yeah.
The Igbo people, they have couple of chants and gyrations they do. One of them is Nzobu Nzobu Eyimba Eyi Nzobu E. When they do that,
Have the translation for that?
I don't know.
Okay.
But I know they do it. The warriors do it when they were going to war. It's sort of like to
Pep you
boost
up
their
to,
morale. So that's what gyration originally started as in the Igbo culture, but it had gone into
various interpretations,
different things.
Yeah.
So, there's this saying that art mimics life. So, of course, you know about the transatlantic trade and how they took people. I don't like calling them slaves for some reason.
Enslaved. I use the term enslaved.
They took enslaved. They carried people from Western Africa and enslaved them in the Caribbean, in Southern America, and America, and in Europe, and wherever it is. So, I think because of how strong the culture is not just in society; it's also in DNA. So these people carried it with them and took it to different parts of the world. So hundreds of years later, the world is now a smaller place. There's now
and it's
internet.
re-emerging, being recognized.
Yes, I can now see a child from Dominica can turn on the internet and go on YouTube and see something what a child in Kenya is doing, and somehow
there's a connection.
There's a connection. You can't explain it. It's the same way I from here can, for example, almost everybody in Nigeria thinks that feeling hot is a Nigerian song.
By the way, my friend says that you're speaking loud enough, she can hear you clearly.
Okay.
So it's maybe me need to take the wax on the mic. So every child in Nigeria thinks that feeling hot is from Nigeria. Okay,
because it sounds very home, like
local.
Yeah,
like something produced.
I had a conversation with a veteran trumpeter back in Nigeria this morning because I wanted to ask him a couple of questions. And one of the songs he suggested to me was Feeling Hot. Do you know I found out when I got here that it is not an Arabic. He was like, "Are you serious? Are you serious?" Mighty Sparrow. They all think he's from like Cameroon or something.
They think Sparrow is from the Cameroons. Interesting.
Because a lot of the music, the social commentary is very, very African.
Familiar to what? Yes.
Yeah. So the history of Calypso or Kaiso goes back to Africa.
The griots.
The griots.
Old historians.
Yeah. There's an ethnic group called the Efiks. They're in southern Nigeria. So, and I think a part of Congo too. So they had that thing where at the end of the evening, people come to a place they call tents. And this was all new information to me. I had to to learn about it. And they'll come and they would talk about what's happening and give information through music.
Yes.
In different ethnic groups, it was different. For example, in Yoruba culture, they had people who would carry, the king would give like a new information, a new law, and people will go, they'll take the information to the market square.
I forget the name for that, but okay, in modern day, there are the backers. They would go to the various communities and carry the message in song.
In songs, yeah. There's something called a gongo. It's a talking drum, translated in English. So they don't even have to talk. They just play it, and the people know what they are saying with the...
Say that again for me, please.
Gongo.
About the talking drum. You didn't have to speak.
You don't have to speak.
You beat the drum.
You beat the drum, and the people...
that's primarily why drums were banned on the plantations. They were used as a form of sending messages.
Oh, it makes sense.
So just about every aspect of our African culture that survived the Middle Passage was suppressed and banned.
No wonder.
Not only you were not allowed to read. If you were caught learning to read, there was a reason why books were banned. But the method of communicating through the drums were banned. Your dance were banned because you could send codes in your dance.
Yes.
The way you braided your hair.
Yes. And the tribal marks, the way you braided your
all
hair.
All those banned.
All the way you paint your nails, all those things were messages.
Yeah. I wanted to have you on for the whole program, but of course we have to do this again because there's so much. This is so rich. And you are from where?
From Nigeria.
From Nigeria.
From Africa.
From Africa.
Yeah.
And you think that Hot was because of the similarities in the structures, the rhythms, etc., etc. Do you have an example of a song that you can play?
There are a couple of them, but just we'll not play all through of them. Just click on the first one. This ones are not the storytelling type. It's just the rhythm of it that sounds very. It sounds like something from here, right?
Yes.
But this is Nigeria.
Of course.
So when I come to a Calypso tent and I feel like, are we in Lagos?
I mean, this is so very important. Chris Collins, what do you say now? This is my friend up in London. And he weighs in on the various programs in his commentary. Let me see. Boy, you have got a gem on your show. He's speaking about you.
Oh, thank you. Press pause. Go to the next one.
Boy, you have got a gem on your show, or people should treasure his information. We have got to do this again.
Does this sound familiar?
Not necessarily. Because the instrumentation there that not really like modern day calypso.
It's not modern day calypso. This is high life music.
High life.
Yeah. But it sounds very similar. Walking bass.
I remember the guitar. Let's pick in that in. The melody.
Then go to the next one. So this is a song called Afri Calypso.
Afri
Calypso. I grew up listening to this.
And it was called that then?
Yeah.
Afri Calypso.
Every child that grew up in the 90s can hum the same line back again.
Yep, definitely.
It's by an artist called Lagbaja. Lagbaja is means somebody. So he's a faceless person. He wears a mask when he goes on stage, so nobody knows what he feels like. So if you want to refer to somebody who's nameless and say Lagbaja, kind of like where you say John Doe.
John Doe, okay. We have a guy from Dominica.
Go to the next one.
He sings always with a mask. Always a mask. Invader.
Yeah.
He's never on stage without a mask. I don't know where he got it from, but he's actually multi-crown monarch of Dominica. But there's this big argument that Calypso originated in Trinidad. I say no. Tobago Crusoe is a Calypsonian in the London circuit. He and I agree. Calypso is from Africa, re-emerged and maybe rebranded in Trinidad because our culture was transported many ways. You spoke about the masquerades.
Yes.
Speak about that if you can.
So I remember when I came, the first year I came here, and towards December I saw masquerades. I was like, for example, in Benin ethnic group, it's called Ekpo. In Urobo, it's called what's it called again? Igbe. Different ethnic groups have different names for it. So they have masquerades for different New Yam festivals. There are some that they go and they pass messages. There are some that just entertain. There are some that go tell stories. Some for entertainment. There are some that women are not allowed to see. There are some that when the king dies, that's when they come out, and nobody's allowed to see them. Nobody's allowed to see them. They come out maybe from 9 o'clock in the night, and it's a curfew. Everybody, because they're doing some traditional rites and everything. And even the way they dance, they turn around. It's called Fiobodo. And that's flip and do all those, what do you call them?
Somersaults?
In Benin, they call it Fiobodo. And I saw them carrying a wooden thing and throwing it. It's very Benin.
Very similar to what you see here.
Exactly.
Now, we are told that our masquerades, the culture is a fusion of the French, that's the quadrille, the English fife and drums, and African things. So it's a fusion because the history of our people in the region, you had the French influence, you had the Spanish, you had the British, etc. All
But
colonizers.
in France, do they have masquerades?
I don't think so. So you got a point. You just made a point. It's not from France.
I have this same argument because when I talk to people about something like bossa nova and some of all this music, and they say, "Oh, it's from Spain," but they don't sound like that in Spain itself. It's only in Southern America and that had the African influence. For example, play a song by KD Numeri. I think it's the second to the last.
And Kwelebe was the...
No, not this one. Second to the last slide. It's called KD. Okay, what's the last one?
We're talking the
Okay,
Blessed.
Yeah, play.
And we're discussing the similarities of the rhythms, the calypso that he recognized he as being what he would have left in Nigeria.
This is from that same epic.
That's it.
But it still sounds a little bossa
That's all
nova
kind of Latin
and sounds,
flavor.
but it's
What we call
African.
Latin flavor. Yeah.
So it wasn't actual. So it just the culture went to different parts of the world and got different names and evolved and morphed into different things. But it still has its roots back home.
Back home. Africa. The word for calypso in Cuba was Kwelbe. Was calypso. We know the Brazilian rhythm, all those, it really came from Africa. From, so I'm glad that we were able to have that conversation where you said, but I'm here with this in Africa. This is what I left home. And it's interesting that you said that just about every child in Nigeria thinks that hot came from Africa.
Yeah. So they even have different music talent hunt shows. So at some point in talent hunt shows, where you have the way you have Americans Got Talent and the rest, so they have stuff like that back home. And let's say a particular week they go do old school, old school African, and almost on every game show there is hot as one of the songs. When I'm going back home, I'm going to tell them hot is not a Nigerian song, and it will shock everybody.
They shocked them.
It will shock them.
Lord Kitchener, many years ago, found he was speaking to someone from Africa, I don't know exactly where, and they challenged him about his song. They said that song is from whatever part of Africa, and they told him how much sale, how popular the song, that album was, and being sold in Africa, he had no clue. But people thought it was, but apart from the language, it was very, very popular in that part of Africa. He had no clue, but they thought that they could claim it as their own.
For example, I was talking to somebody, this Michael Jackson's Mama Say, Mama Sa, Mama Kusa. Mani Dubango, Cameroon.
But that was before Michael Jackson.
Okay, well.
Not before Michael Jackson.
And I was hearing you guys talk about how Calypso, social commentary, speaking against injustice of the government. I think it has always been a black thing where we use art to protest and to vent. So, and different generations, it comes off differently. So in America, there was hip hop at the time.
Protest.
Yes. In Nigeria, there was a guy called Fela Kuti who used Afrobeat, that has evolved into something else now. But Afrobeat was protest music. It was, and in different parts of Africa, they had different people who used art.
The blues reflected their situation.
I think
jazz,
it's an African thing. Jazz
again.
too.
So I'm glad that you're here as a person living in Africa, Nigeria, experiencing those aspects, different genres of music, and recognizing in traveling to St. Kitts and already, hey, This is what I left at home.
Many times I'm driving through town and I see somebody and he looks very much like somebody I know back at home. We still look very much alike.
But we're quick to tell you, I am not African, I'm Kititian. Don't take him on. But speak to me about your experience playing with the Legends Band.
Oh, yes. It has been... I told somebody asked me, oh, you're playing Calypso. How did you know? I told the person, to me, it feels like musical tourism.
Most natural thing.
Yeah. Very, very natural. And it's like musical tourism for me. Because many times people come to St. Kitts.
They call it musical tourism?
Yeah. People come to St. Kitts and they go to see the sites and all of that, which is good. I also think the music is also part of what people should come and see. Experience is also part
our
of
music.
Yes, the music of St. Kitts, the music of the Caribbean. Me being a musician, if I go to a place, I wouldn't just go to the sites. I want to hear what they hear. I want to.
Interesting.
So, and just listening to it passively, you only gain a little from it. But being immersed in it, you playing the music, and I'll see. Oh, okay, this is how the music is structured. This is the band chorus comes in here. I didn't know all of this until I started playing with the Legends. And you guys, thanks to you guys very, very gracious with explaining it to me. Okay, this is when we come here. This is where we go there. And also, big shout out to Nompi. He was he too has been very, very instrumental in teaching me about it. So I was learning on my feet. And thanks to you guys for bringing me.
But he was the one who recommended you be a member of the band, so I reached out to you, and I'm glad that you said yes, because it's been a journey.
Yeah.
You're saying it's been an education. It's been a pleasure watching you guys perform.
Yeah.
Right? We are the underdog when it comes to the tents. As you know, we're not as popular, but we represent ourselves. And tomorrow night, we are playing for about 3 Calypsonians. The majority of us are singing on the Sunday night.
Okay.
But I want to invite the general public to come out and view the eliminations on the 2 nights. And, of course, you will be on stage representing the Legends Band. It's a competition, so I know. But, and your trumpeter, the trumpeter, he's also from?
His dad is from Nigeria. His mom is from St. Kitts.
So where was he born?
And I think it's Nigeria.
He's born in Nigeria. So I have 2 Africans, 2 Nigerians playing. What's his name? I keep forgetting his name.
Inoite.
No.
Inanga.
No. The alto sax.
Shaq Benjamin.
Shaq. So he's a minority. He's in the minority. But yes, I am glad we had a conversation, because a lot of folks who are denying their African roots, and everything can be traced through the music. Everything. But there's a denial about the roots are not African. You're not Chinese. You're not Chinese. You're not Indian. You're African. It doesn't matter, as Peter Tosh says, as long as you're a black man, you're African. And our music transcends us. Our music is so awesome and beautiful. You go to Jamaica, it's reggae. I mean, they branded it as their own, and now it's global. Calypso was not originated in Trinidad. But the kind of, it was maybe had a rebirth, a regeneration. But I am not from Trinidad. And I can hold my own, and I can boast with any Trinidad Calypsonian in terms of writing, performing. And I wasn't I wasn't born there. As a matter of fact, the world's greatest Calypsonian was born in Grenada, not Trinidad. But he got his DNA from Africa. It's about your cultural DNA. You're born with it. I mean, like, look at you. You're just a natural. I saw you first at was it Antioch Baptist Church? I didn't know you then, but I was impressed by your awesomeness. Like, who's this guy? So even when you came to the band house to practice, I didn't make the connection. I didn't recognize you. You're just awesome.
Thank you.
So I want to thank you for joining us today on Win FM. I didn't get the memo about the other guests this morning. If not, we'll have more detailed conversation. And I do now have to run to a meeting at 1 o'clock. But for one, I'm going to be late. I do have Sharon's permission to cut this short, so I want to thank our viewers and listeners who would have joined us today. It's a shortened version of what we do for Voices. We do like from 11 to 1:30. We just pause for the media newscast. So hopefully we can come back with more examples of the music and have a more detailed discussion.
The language
and
too,
open the lines where the
people
public can weigh in
awesome.
and engage in conversation. I want to thank you once again. Blessed Obum.
Yeah.
See, I'm not right. My ice cream friend, thank you for your contribution. Chris Collins, all the folks up there, I've got to run to a second meeting. So until next week, we say God bless, stay safe, and peace, love, and a much better tomorrow. Bye.
No time like now. Our lowest interest rates ever VAT Days auto sales event. There is no time like now to buy or reserve a brand new vehicle at Horseman's. Buy now or reserve for VAT Days and get our lowest interest rates ever. Yes, buy now or reserve for VAT Days in December and get our lowest